Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. What you're about to watch is a UTU extra from my documentary Unearthing the Underground. And what you're about to see is the full, slightly edited interviews from the Hard-Ons, the Meanies, and Jay Frenzal from Frenzal. And yeah, the reason why I say slightly edited is because some things, some bands wanted me to cut it out, which, fair enough, I'm going to respect their wishes. So anyway, yeah, there's the full-ish, slightly edited interviews, and yeah, I'll be uploading some more full interviews from this documentary. Bye.
All right. First question: What's your names, the band or bands you've had? Sorry.
The bands we played in,
And how long have you been part of the music scene for?
well, Wally and I have probably been similar.
Yeah.
So what,
30 plus?
35 years.
Yeah.
Or something. Link, Wally, Ringo, Jaws. You played. He's played in the Casanovas.
Yeah, and the Onions.
And the Onions.
Since about 1991. Yeah.
Heck.
However long that is.
No, I've done nothing else.
What about Prawn Canyon? Was that made up?
That was a made-up name.
Oh, I don't know Prawn Canyon. And I played a band called Even as well. But I was in a band called the Naked Children when these guys discovered me.
That's right. Isn't there something else you did?
The Scooters. Shocking.
So, in your opinion, why should people go to shows?
Energy, loudness,
Yeah.
socialising.
For a cathartic experience.
Pick up, get lucky, get drunk, get high, get lost, get fucked.
So, what are some of the good things about the music scene in Australia right now?
We're in it.
Wow. A plethora of venues. It's a pretty healthy music scene. That's compared.
What would you know? You've been in Spain for a
Shut
while.
up. well, when I left, it was. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gone down. It's gone downhill since then.
Oh, okay.
No,
One of the dogs without you.
Well, you're best equipped.
No, you already said it. There's lots of places to play, lots of great bands to play with, lots of fucktards in the music industry, which you'd expect. Lots of assholes have to deal with, but hey, that's so good over. If I was a banker, I'm sure I'd be a wanker. But there's, no, it's great, it's fantastic.
Unfortunately, the infrastructure isn't as probably as
not as good as the banking
conducive to not making a living, but kind of like touring a lot as it used to be.
I mean, there's one major flaw in the Australian music industry at the moment, is there's no music on TV.
Yes,
That
we
is
need recovery.
the ultimate fucknessness, fucking shit-assness
Yeah.
of the whole thing. Because there's radio stations don't play your stuff. Community radio can only do so much, and they do a lot for us anyway. But if there was some sort of television outlet, it would be nice. And plus, not enough. There's not enough big ups to people who are doing well overseas either anymore. And when you had Countdown, Molly had come on frothing in the mouth about some, Ice House had done something in Bulgaria, and everybody go, wow, that's fantastic. But like the psychedelic pork crumpets from Perth sold out the Electric Ballroom in London, which is 1,250 people.
Jesus Christ!
So no, you didn't know that, did you? No.
I don't know. I've never heard of the band.
King Gizzard headlined Alexandra Palace, which is
yeah.
just massive in London. It's huge.
Well, these bands are huge overseas.
Yeah, but not enough fuss is made about that over here. Anyway, maybe I'm living under a rock, maybe it is, and I just don't get it.
I've got a song called Under My Rock on the new record.
You do too.
It's not about that.
But TV shows, come on, someone.
It's about me.
So, how is playing in Sydney compared to other states like Melbourne or Queensland or even around the world?
Same everywhere, really.
Well, it's picking up. It went through a bit of a lull there, Sydney, for a while with all the lockout laws and everything, but it seems to be getting nice and healthy again, which is good.
Well, venues like this reopening.
Yeah.
With Paddington RSL.
Yeah.
And the Carry Bar Hotel.
No, but I mean, the early 90s.
Oh, it was great.
That's it.
It was really, really good. And then some idiot decided to stuff it up. Anyway.
So, what are your... Oh, sorry.
Come on.
So, what are your thoughts on the community aspect and how, like, a lot of musicians know each other and that?
Well, I think it's
healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, very important.
I think, if you've got that sort of super competitive culture going on, it's not. I don't enjoy that sort of environment. I want to sort of have that camaraderie and bands helping each other and
Yep. Sharing gear, sharing hotel rooms, sharing boyfriends and girlfriends.
we've all been in that situation where we play with a band. It's like, you know, the precious drummer won't run his drums or whatever. It's just like,
Yeah, Jules.
and it just makes for a bad gig, doesn't it? It makes for a bad
does,
gig. It's
yeah,
just like the mood is kind of
I mean, I've been just about to go on stage at Big Day Out.
yeah.
And I needed to borrow literally a cymbal stand,
Yeah.
and the other band wouldn't lend me it. And that was hired gear. It wasn't like that
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
precious old vintage kit or anything.
So any crazy stories that you can think of right now of playing a show or just going to a show in general?
Oh, we did a show once where somebody hit him and broke his jaw whilst on stage,
And naked.
while he was naked.
Yeah, so that was
Don't do
interesting.
that.
Yeah, I remember, it's not funny, but I remember seeing that guy earlier in the night and just got, it's like the animal instinct was like, oh, there's something
He did
Something
seem
wasn't
a little,
quite right about this
Did
guy.
seem a little out of place
Yeah.
right from the get-go. Just his demeanour.
Funny.
Funny.
Shitting myself like 5 minutes before a show.
With the
At the Lansdowne.
Did it?
Yeah, because I used to have this idea, because I've always lacked for energy, so I was like, well, I'm going to have like a can of spaghetti for carbohydrates, a Mars bar and a can of Coke. And I'm about to go on and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. I had to shower and...
I didn't do that.
Oh god.
I didn't, until now I haven't really spreading around.
Maybe that's school back.
Do you think that the underground like portion of like, you know, the Aussie music scene, do you reckon it should stay underground, or do you? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it should be just a springboard to, you know, there's nothing wrong with success if someone is, you know, and you should be
Absolutely.
happy for your fellow bands to. You should be, but I'm a bit of a cunt, so.
I hate the term selling out.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. I mean, to me, someone's selling out not because they're becoming famous, but if they're doing something that they don't really want to be doing.
So what are some good venues to play a show at, or just to go and see a show in general?
Well, I haven't ever played here before, but I've got a feeling this will be good. The Pano RSL. The Quarter Hotel is a great one to play.
Yeah. Old Bar,
Yeah, the old bar.
the Retreat. I actually really like playing the Retreat.
Oh, yeah?
We never had a bad show there.
I've never done a retreat. I've done that at the back when they had the stage in the backyard.
Okay. Did you say Lansdowne?
No.
That's pretty.
Oh, yes, that's fun to play.
Yeah.
Always the tote.
The Totes,
Tote,
yeah.
of course, yeah.
The Hi-Fi, or should I say Max Watts.
The Old Greek Theatre in its day.
Oh,
That was good,
Wasn't
yeah.
that great? It's a bloody clothing shop now.
Oh, really?
The Phoenician Club, which is now a bread shop. How despicable. What are you, Jules? You just hate every gig?
Yeah, no, no, yeah. The tote's basically the one for me that you know, you feel most comfortable. You know,
What's that cool
it's
bar
because I
in?
play there the most. You know.
Jive in Adelaide?
No, the one. What's the cool one in Canberra again? It's like quite a small little bar. It's
Transit bar? No, the green room? Yeah. The Pilots Club used to be great.
Yeah, that used to be good. Town Hall
the-
Hotel in North Melbourne.
I've never played that.
The Zoo was.
The Brazil Brizzy, yeah, that's good. The Hi-Fi in Brizzy was good too. Did we play with this band?
Yes, I think we did
Yeah.
once.
What's the one with the two levels? The crowd can stand up on the second level and watch it.
The Brizzy?
Yeah.
Tivoli?
Yeah, mate. It might be.
Tivoli's a good place. Anyway,
Sorry.
Endless.
We did.
Nah, it's alright.
Badlands in Perth. Enjoyed that.
So what are some bands that if people aren't listening to already, they should be?
I'm out of touch, so you can get on that already.
Civic.
Oh, Civic. Yeah.
Civic are good.
Uh,
I really liked Private Function the other night.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Disco Junk.
Not Space Junk. Although Space Junk are good too. But yeah.
Buried Feather, I like those guys. Dick Lord.
Yeah, they were good.
Joel Saracula, who's Australian but living in London, I've seen him quite a few times in
Oh, yeah.
Barcelona, and he's incredible.
What's his name?
Joel Serracula, or as he says over there with the correct phonetics, Joel Serracula. Joel. Grace Cubby, great voice.
Oh, there goes Tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed.
Yeah, Tumbleweed.
So, you've been playing for a long time now. What are you hoping to achieve musically these days?
Greatness. Yeah, I guess you never stop trying to kind of like succeed, but you can just get a little more realistic about it. But I think that's a positive thing, because you can put a lot more love into it when you're not concerned about all the peripheral bullshit.
Yeah. Continue to write and record and release quality material.
Exactly.
Alright, last question. Plug yourself, plug all your social media.
Oh, Clark, I think it's vlog.
We're not Catholic, so.
I want shit on the social media. Oh, there's Instagram, Facebook. Tweets. It's easy to find us anyway.
Alright, thank you very much.
No worries, mate.
First of all, what's your name? What bands have you been in? And how long have you been a part of the scene or playing for?
Part of the scene. That's a funny little saying.
Yeah, I use the word scene a lot. I don't know why.
Well, I guess there's kind of no other way to describe it. I've been pretty much doing this forever. One of my bands are Hard-Ons. This is technically our 35th year of playing in pubs, because I was the last to turn 18. I turned 18 in 84, so that was our first pub gig. But we actually played, first time I ever played was in 81, end of school thingy. So been pretty much playing forever, but I play in Hard-Ons. Tonight, Getting the Gear, Nunchucker Superfly's playing, and I also do solo shit, acoustic stuff.
So why should people go to shows, in your opinion?
They should only go to shows if they enjoy them.
Oh, fair enough. So what are some of the good things about the Australian music scene right now?
Right now?
Or just in general?
I guess basically the good thing about music, full stop, is like music is one of the most wonderful things ever that the human race has ever created. I mean, the people that love doing this, and obviously like people like me, like kind of like lifers, I guess you would say. But the best thing about it is like music is just fucking phenomenal. And what's really nice to see, and I'm still seeing this after all these years, is there are still, kids or people from that, there to hear, who still do it because, music has touched them in certain ways, and they just want to go out there and continue the awesomeness of, playing music, creating music, rocking out, all that sort of thing. It's not exactly a good time for music. I think in many ways, now that I'm an old fart, I was definitely blessed because the Hard-Ons came about at the end of the pub scene. So there was shitloads of places to play. And we would do easily like a minimum of 100 gigs a year.
Wow.
You would play every weekend, all weekend, even midweek, And it didn't matter whether you did 3 or 4 shows in the same city. It was possible. Whereas nowadays, if you do, you play Sydney, you can't play again for another month or so. It's, because people won't book you. They'll be like, oh, you played 3 weeks ago. No one's going to come and see you.
Especially with the lockout laws. That's definitely affected the scene here in Sydney specifically.
I don't really understand the lockout laws myself because I don't drink, so I couldn't care less. And I only go to pubs if there's a band on. So I don't know, but it does seem to... I mean, that happened as I was still driving a taxi. And I remember like, fucking hell, Sydney's dead. It was one of the another nails in the coffin of that job for me. So, yeah, it has seemed to affect it. I mean, look, it's a struggle at the moment, but I'm very grateful there are still kids out there that are thinking, well, I really want to do this, so I don't care, and then they do things like, their warehouse gigs and things like that, which, I've been to loads of those, and loads of them are pretty awesome.
So, how do you reckon the music scene in Australia could be improved?
Fuck, so many ways. The best way would be if we had a government that wasn't so fucking shit and actually did something towards, funding arts. There are many places, like Europe is probably the best example, where a lot of cities, a lot of countries, I should say, actually fund art. So there are many places that are like combined rehearsal spaces, art centers, they'll have a recording studio in there. Even things like, they'll have like a film projector and shit like that in there. So you go to a venue, you play a gig, and then, 2 doors down, there's, rehearsal rooms and things like that, and it's all funded by government. So, it's perpetuating, new bands, new music, new shows, everything. It's, this government here does nothing like that. And I even remember that fucking turd, Joe Hockey, when he did one of his budget speeches and people were complaining about how you pretty much, I've been playing music forever, and my band's kind of known and respected here and overseas, and people are like, oh, blah 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 blah. But man, technically it's a hobby and it's part-time, because all of us have to work, all that sort of shit. We can't, like, music, to play music in Australia costs money. So if the Australian government did something to make it not cost so much fucking money, that would be a huge improvement, and more people would be encouraged to do it. And more people be encouraged to not only do it, but keep going. Because it is a shame when you do see some bands and you think they've got something, but they can't keep going, they can't develop, because, it's like, oh man, I got to work, So
what are your thoughts on the Australian music community?
Good. It's like, but when you say the Australian music community, to me, it's always been the same. Like, from the day we started, I think people who like this shit, you just tend to like other people that like this shit. And, you hang out together, you play shows together. I don't know, it's always been pretty awesome. And I still feel and see that now. Like, friends of ours in interstate, when we go play there, we share gear. When they come here, we share gear. The amount of times that I've sort of come across anyone, with an ego or an attitude or anything like that, I don't think at our level that you actually ever see that sort of shit. I mean, it's pretty rare, like maybe once every 5 years there'll be someone who'll think, that guy's a fucking turd, I don't want to play his band again. It's really rare. Even if I don't like the band, if they're not my kind of thing, it's like, fuck, they're really cool guys, I'll play for them anytime. And it's been like that for 40 years. It's unreal.
So what are some bands that people should be listening to if they're not already listening to them?
Again, fuck, music is so subjective. If you're asking me what sort of bands I like at the moment, I really like that band Wicked City from Melbourne. I really like Dead, also from Melbourne, or Castlemaine. Locally in Sydney, the last band that really took my head off was a band called Arse. Okay. A-R-S-E, spelled properly, which is a good thing. Like, fucking amazing. Man, so many, tons. Chinese Burns Unit, the bands that we're playing with tonight, Prehistoric Douche from Melbourne, and The Evil Twin. There was another band, I haven't seen them live yet, but I'm on a comp with them, and there are 2 songs on a comp. It was unreal, called No Dose. I know, tons. And I got a terrible memory. I'm always like, after you turn the camera off, I'll be like, and that band.
So what are some good venues to play as a band, in a band, or even just go to as just a regular fan of music?
They're sort of disappearing, which is a bummer. I think Marrickville Bolo is really awesome. it's one of those places where no matter wherever you stand, you can see the band, and the sound is usually amazing. Good sound guy. I like the venue Mosh Pit for a real small place. It's just unfortunate they don't really pay. Yeah, I don't know. Anywhere. I like Frankie's Pizza as well. I like the vibe of that place because it has this awesome old school kind of sleazy city venue, which just doesn't exist anymore. But Frankie's Pizza is a sort of venues that were around when we first started. Like there was fuckload of shows in the cities, which I don't know, it used to be easier to get to, to take your car in and out of. But now I guess because, Sydney's become so big, it's harder to get gear in and out of there. But at least somewhere like Frankie's, they're really good with, there's already quads and stuff there. So, but I like that. I like that vibe of the place a lot. And there's heaps of pinball machines.
Second last question. So what do you hope to achieve with your musical endeavours these days?
That question you'd have to do a whole doco on. I mean, for me, music is, for me personally, music is an artistic journey and something that I want to take as far as I can go with it, basically.
Fair enough. And last question, just plug your bands and all that jazz.
Hard-ons, Nunchucker, Solo. Check it out.
Alright, thanks, man. Alrighty. First question, what's your name, the band or bands you've been a part of, and how long have you been a part of the scene for?
My name's Jay. I sing in the band Frenzal, Rhomb. I also play bass in the band the Neptune Power Federation. I play bass in a band called the Chinese Burns Unit. Each band respectively has been going for, I think Frenzal Rhomb's been going for about 120 years. Neptune Power Federation's been going for about 10 minutes, and Chinese Burns Unit somewhere in between.
So in your opinion, why should people go to shows?
Look, it's I guess, I don't know, most people will probably be saying this, but it's definitely something that you can't get from watching a show online, which is probably the disgusting smell of the room. It's fucking gross, and you just can't get that watching the computer. And the volume as well, the volume is intense. For me, when I first started going to shows, it was like, a combination of the volume, and there was an element of danger, I guess, in the room, where you weren't sure if you were going to have your spine broken or be glassed, or, like, I'm not really selling this so far, but there was an element of, sort of feeling slightly unsafe, which is very exciting as a young man.
So what are some of the good things about the Australian music scene right now?
Oh man, right now it's really good. It's better than it's been, I reckon, in a long time. I think when we started out with the Frenzal Rhomb band, it was quite an exclusive scene. You had to have a very specific crass patch on your army shorts to be able to fit in, and we definitely didn't fit in. We were sort of shunned from we played a few of the sort of squat type things, and we'd be sort of shunned from that community a little bit. It might have been because we absolutely sucked, but I like to think it was because we were just a little bit different to that sort of quite narrow idea of punk. We're probably too melodic, or whatever. People thought we were posers, probably were. But now it's pretty exclusive. You can be a massive poser and be accepted by the guy with the crass patch. No, it's good. There's like a lot more mixed bills, I reckon, now. There's a lot of people playing in each other's bands. A lot of people sort of willing each other to be good and supporting each other's bands. Maybe that always happened. But I don't know. At the moment, it just seems like a nice time, and I'm sure within that there's a lot of soap operas going on. But for me, it seems like, yeah, there's a lot of it's a lot more inclusive.
On the same note, what do you think could be improved?
Should be more inclusive. I mean, no. What could be improved? I don't know. Everyone should be horrendously famous and writing themselves tickets to Hollywood and has Gucci sponsorships. You know, you see some bands and you're like, how have I been living without this band? They're amazing, you know, and then the next week they're sort of split up. But that's also maybe the nature of punk music sometimes. Like, some of the best bands exist for, you know, in the blink of an eye. And I don't know, what could be improved? More percussion, more egg shaker. Love an egg shaker. Triangle, tambourine. You're all cowards if you don't use it.
So how is the Australian scene compared to other places in the world?
Oh, it's much worse here. The Australian scene's much worse than anywhere else in the world. No, it's great. It's good. It punches above its weight, population-wise. It's there's just less people, so it's going to be smaller, and there's less people going to shows because there's not as many people. So yeah, it's a bit of a sort of a strange thing to compare, maybe. But as far as, like, Australia does have a unique sound, maybe because it's of the accent, and I feel like people these days are less scared about singing in Australian accents, so they just sort of sing how they speak, but louder and faster. Yeah.
Fair enough. How this question's a little dated since they recently got lifted, but how do you think the lockouts affected the scene here in Sydney?
So, I mean, I don't really know the details on the financial cost. I know that it meant a lot to, like, bars and clubs and stuff, as far as not being able to sell as much booze, I guess. But I reckon the biggest sort of damage that those things do is that, like, most of our bands will play late. So we play at, like, you know, even if it's before the lockout laws or before the lockouts are implemented, like the actual time, we're playing at, like, you know, 11 o'clock, midnight or whatever, and then you clock off work and it's like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. You can't go to sleep at that point. Like, it'd be like coming home from work at 5 and being expected to be in bed at 6. Like, you're just up and awake and wired from the show and whatever. So, and all your friends are there too, and all the other people that are in bands, and I reckon that's the time between then and 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning where you come up with your best ideas and your wildest, most stupid ideas that could turn into the best bands ever. And that was the bit of time that was being really affected by the lockouts, where everyone was like, oh, what do we do now? I don't know, go to Steve's house, bongs. It's like, you know, it definitely wasn't as you weren't as likely to meet you know, new people, or I don't know. I reckon that was a danger of those laws, is stifling future creativity.
What are your thoughts on the community aspect and how everyone kind of knows each other?
Very incestuous. I mean, that's both good and bad, I guess, because yeah, on one hand, it's great because if you need a drummer, you probably know 3 drummers. It's bad because those 3 drummers are already in 20 bands. It's good because, yeah, if you need help recording or doing something, then there's going to be someone that you know that'll be able to make a video or take some photos or have a camera or a, you know, Pro Tools or whatever. And it's bad because within 10 minutes every band hates each other because they know every single part of every single lives, or all of their lives, and so you get you get roped into the soap opera, you know. So yeah, double-edged. It's good and shit.
Are there any crazy stories that you can think of right now that have happened whilst going to a gig or whilst playing at a gig? You can skip this one if you want.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. And I reckon I've been asked it in almost every interview and I never come up with a good answer. And then later on I'll go, oh, God, there was that. Yeah, I don't know. Gigs. We had a lot of injuries at gigs, but in the band. Like, I remember breaking my arm really badly at the elbow. It went like 90 degrees back at the elbow and was just like hanging off. It's horrible. I was at this snowboarding festival in Canada and I was like crowd surfing and trying to sing at the same time, which is a rookie move because you need both your hands. And I got thrown back on the stage and there was a gap in the stage and my arm went in the gap, snapped it at the elbow 90 degrees back the wrong way and it was hanging off. And I really thought they were going to take my arm. Like I was like, this looks bad. I reckon they're going to amputate. It looks terrible. And I was grabbing the guy that we were touring with, going, "Don't let him take my arm. Don't let him take my arm." I was like convinced that they were gonna chop it off. And it looked awful, but you could hear this Aussie fuckwit in the crowd just going, "Play never had so much fun." I'm going, oh, dude, worse. And yeah, I don't know, crazy stories.
Fair enough. Sounds gnarly.
Yeah.
So, do you think that the underground should stay underground in some aspects?
No, I think everyone should hear everything. Everyone should be as big as U2. Some of the bands that you come across, they're like, oh man, you should be headlining the biggest festival on earth. You know, like, you know, some bands, you're like, just split up. But there's not many of them that I come across. And, you know, even those ones, you're like, just keep doing it, and eventually you'll get better, even by accident. And there are some bands that I think are terrible, and then later on I realise that they're absolute geniuses. And then there are some bands that I think are great, and turns out they're not really, so I'm probably not the best judge. But yeah, I wish all the success for all the people. You know, it's a shame, I think, when bands start to do well and their friends kind of turn their backs on them a little bit, you know, which happens a lot in that sort of more punk sort of stuff. And Australia, maybe, I reckon you don't find it as much in America. Yeah, and other places, as at least in America, when your friend's band does well, they just talk about you behind your back. Whereas here they're like, oh, that guy, no, not him, stop turning up at shows and stuff. But yeah, for mine, I'm like, you wouldn't begrudge anyone's success in music, because it's a tough road, and in Australia, no one wants you to do it. It's not a legitimate thing to do with your life. It's not like in Europe where you're like, oh, you are working at the Westpac, you are in band. It's like equal, you know. They just sort of consider it's just a regular thing to do with your life. But yeah, here it's like, oh, so what do you do for money? Or like, oh, so when are you gonna get a job? Or are you gonna go to uni at some point? Or, you know, it's not like you know, there's a lot of pressure, I think, in Australia particularly, to be a regular person. I shouldn't say that, yeah, it sounded bad, but like you should, yeah, to like do the things that, you know, like get a mortgage or you know, like you have to be, yeah, doing something that fits in more with our sort of society. But now I'm just sort of rambling, and this sentence is just gonna end up on the cutting room floor, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a good ramble. So what are some good venues to play on, or just to see a band play?
Favourite venues around, are you talking about Sydney specifically, or around the country?
Around the country.
Yeah. Not my personal faves. Around this area, Marrickville Bolo's sick. I got a sick sound system now. Super nice people, cheap drinks at the bar, nice vibe. the Red Rattler next door here is a winner. Super cool people, good politics, a lot of volunteer staff and stuff that are learning how to do stuff, so it's good to support them. They do a lot of diverse kind of acts there and stuff. There's obviously like the Blackwire record shop closed, so now that a lot of those shows have sort of been sort of spread around a few different places like Hideaway Bar and Mosh Pit and kind of some smaller places. Mothership, I know, in Marrickville, and I think 96 Tears may or may not be doing shows by the time this comes out, so I'm not sure about that. At Monster Mouse. I'm definitely going to forget someone and they're going to just go, oh, why do you mention my venue? And pubs wise, I guess, Frenzal Rhomb always enjoys playing at the Crowbar in Brisbane and in Sydney. Man, there's just so many places. We played at the Seaview Tavern in Woolgoolga the other day. That was pretty nice. Cambridge in Newcastle, Hamilton Station in Newcastle's good. Wollongong Uni's good. Rad Bar was rad. I think that's opening up somewhere soon. We normally play at the Corner in Melbourne, which is a lovely place. It's pretty much all we play in Melbourne. Neptune Power Federation plays a lot of the Tote, the Last Chance, Rock and Roll Bar. I feel like this question could never end, by the way. Prince of Wales in Bunbury is amazing, which is like a few hours south of Perth. Wrote a song about it. It's a lot of good venues.
Fair enough. So what are some bands that people should be listening to if they're not already?
Man, in this studio I come across so many good bands, and this is definitely a question where I'm going to forget, like, just because I'm being asked. I should have written a list. At the moment, my favourites that have come through here recently, there's a band from Penrith that moved around here called the Naughty Boys. I don't know if you know those guys, but they're absolutely amazing. Coffin from the Northern Beaches, another sick band. One of my favourite Sydney bands, I reckon, is Canine. Heavy band. Really cool, political, aggressive music. There's literally 100 of my favourite new bands at the moment, and right now I'm not thinking of any of them. What you can do is, at the end of this, I'll just do some silence and then I'll send you a list and you can scroll all my favourite bands.
Alright, sure, I'll do that. So this interview is happening at the pet food factory. What's some of the history of this place, I guess?
I started this over in Redfern, in the old Troy Horse building, as a way of sort of having somewhere to go to kind of write my own stuff, and because I was getting in a few different bands, and wanted a space that I could sort of just jam out and make a racket by myself for my own stuff. And then I started sort of enjoying the recording bit, so I started recording some other bands, and first ones of which, Amateur Drunks and Obit Batuk. My first couple of bands I recorded, still some of my favourite stuff ever. And then that whole building got sort of either demolished or turned into somewhere where you had to have a beard and a graphic design degree to get in the door. So that's sort of what's happening to that neighbourhood. And then, we found this place in Marrickville, and she's little, but she's good. It's like, we kind of built it during the year that we were doing Blackie's Song a Day. I don't know if he told you about that when you interviewed him. He basically released a song a day for a year.
Wow.
And it was the worst year of my life. No, it was good at times.
Second last question. So these days, what are you hoping to achieve with music?
I really enjoy the having a good time aspect of music, to be honest. And I also enjoy bathing in cash. So that's why I'm quitting music. No, it's good. I feel like when you decide that you're just going to do music, you kind of need to do a few different things. So yeah, I'm in a few different bands. I've got the studio, and so just sort of try and make it work somehow. But hopefully I'll just get to keep doing it. And for me, that means keeping on writing songs. I think one of the things that keeps me interested in it all is having these young bands that come through here and playing really aggressive, sort of fun music that really a lot of really smart kids doing smart stuff and just playing like right at the edge of their abilities. And that for me is it's exciting and wants me to keep doing it.
All right, last question. Plug yourself. Advertise yourself, basically. Your bands, your social medias.
When I have air conditioning, I use Akai. I don't know. The Neptune Power Federation's putting out a new record pretty soon. When I say that, I have no idea when that's going to come out. I haven't recorded it yet, but it is all written. We're doing a bunch of 7 inches, like covers 7 inches for this European tour that we're doing, which is very exciting. And the Frenzal Rhomb band is recording a new record at the moment. We're about halfway through writing the songs for that, which basically means we've written 35 songs already, and we're going to try and get 70 and then whittle that down to about 16. And Chinese Burns Unit's doing a new record, going to maybe go to Japan at the end of the year. So yeah, things, we're doing lots of things and stuff.
All right, thank you very much.